Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Minecraft, starting with the Awakening Block Puppet Master. Chapter 91. The commander is defeated now. The strong man who stepped on the steps 4 times didn't even block half of the Pig Spirit King's moves. How is this possible? A dozen third-level skeletons gasped. As soon as they heard the commander's order, they rushed over to support. As a result, the commander burped before anyone arrived. What a fart! Each of them knew very well that the Pig Spirit King's attack just now did not use all his strength. But this kind of attack directly crushed a level 40 skeleton commander to death, just like crushing an ant to death. This group of third-level skeletons, are masters in the military, but they are just scum in front of the demigods. Going up there is no different from giving away someone's head. The Piglin King looked at the third-level skeleton standing on the ground with cold eyes and said, "You also think you have a long life, so you want to fight with me?" No, no, no. As soon as these words came out, all the third-level skeleton generals took a step back. The passion for sacrificing oneself for the race just now disappeared, and the intention to quit was born in my heart. The reason why the demigod level is called separately is because he has enough strength to crush everyone below the level. Not to mention that the skeleton commander is only level 40, even if it is level 48, the Piglin King can still kill him within 3 moves. The Pig Spirit King groped his chin, thinking in his mind, slap all these third-level skeletons to death. Isn't this too unkind? Just when he was about to slap these level 30 skeleton generals to death, a roaring roar sounded in the distance. It was the Wither King who had arrived belatedly. Damn pig, why are you so crazy today? The 2 tribes are not allowed to participate in the battle against the powerful demigods. Do you think this is a fart? Demigod realm experts no longer belong to the realm of humans. Even if they face thousands of troops, it is only a matter of a snap of a finger. Therefore, demigods are not allowed to participate in frontal battlefields. If they want to fight, it can only be king against king, soldier against soldier. This was an agreement between the 2 clans long ago, and the Pig Spirit King obviously broke the agreement today. The Pig Spirit King put away his transformed giant hand and said nonchalantly, "Of course I will abide by the agreement. It's just a challenge to kill a few eyeless skeletons. You can't afford it, right? Shut up, you dead pig." The skeleton of the Wither King looked gloomy and clenched his hands with a loud banging sound. When he flew to the center of the battlefield, there was a huge crater below, and in the crater lay a soundless skeleton. That is the commander-in-chief of his withered clan. It's unreasonable to kill me, a general who has stepped down the ranks 4 times. How can you issue a challenge like this? After stepping on the level 4 times, this is considered the high-end combat power of the clan. It takes countless resources to cultivate a 4th-level skeleton. And now, one of them was killed by the Pig Spirit King in the blink of an eye. His heart was bleeding at this time. The Wither King's demigod aura exploded, suppressing the Pig Spirit King's aura. The Pig Spirit King remained calm and ignored the angry Wither King as he continued. "I want to reiterate that I have not violated the agreement between the 2 tribes. If I really want to kill, your army of skeletons cannot stop me for a second." He really just wanted to kill a few skeletons to challenge the Wither King. Who knew that the level 40 commander was so ignorant that he just slapped him in the face? It was just a fly that didn't know how high the sky was, and he couldn't be blamed for it. Brazen. The Wither King was furious, and countless withering shadows appeared around him, attacking the Piglin army behind the Piglin King. "Since you are unkind, don't blame me for being unjust. If a level 40 commander dies, then he will have to let a pig spirit die as well." The Piglin King snorted coldly, opened his hands, and turned his body into a giant human shield, resisting all damage. "Are you worthy of talking to me about benevolence and righteousness? Don't think that I don't know that you recently captured my people and sucked their flesh and blood. You use the lives of our pigs as rations. You old man has such great authority." The Pig Spirit King did not show any weakness and immediately started a fight with the Withering King. On the ground, the armies of both sides retreated to prevent the aftermath of the battle between the 2 demigods from harming them. Deep in the Valley of Soul Sand, the blue-purple smoke filled the air and the visibility was very poor. The soul sofa on the ground made a terrifying roar. Ji-Shin drove the cube under his feet, holding the golden carrot to his mouth with his left hand, and observing the map with his right hand. He has been flying for nearly 3 hours, and has lost several groups of golden carrots. Now he can't even see the border of the Nether Fortress. The environment here can only be described as desolate. In addition to the netherworld blue fire burning on the soul sand, it is the whisper of the dead in the ear. Piglin Wu, you must have bought a fake, right? It shouldn't be. The map works, so why haven't we arrived yet? How about asking a team of withered skeletons? Ji Shin was inexplicably irritated. After searching for so long, he couldn't even find a hair on it. This made him suspect that there was something wrong with the map. After a while, he first found a hidden place to stay. After carefully observing the map to no avail, he prepared to ambush a wither team and ask about the situation. He encountered quite a few wither squads during the 3-hour flight. But in order not to alert the enemy, he did not conflict with the other party. Just when Ji Shin was hiding, a magical scene happened. The fortress in the lower realm, which he had been unable to find, actually appeared in front of him out of thin air. The fortress is huge, thousands of times larger than the game, with all kinds of pavilions, just like a city suspended in midair. The entire fortress is made of nether stone bricks, which is grand and atmospheric. Looking at the map again, his current location is exactly the place marked on the map. Mirage. Ji Shin couldn't believe his eyes. No, there's something wrong with the surrounding blue-purple smoke. He quickly realized that he was very sensitive to squares. The nether fortress ahead is real. If you look carefully, there are still some skeleton soldiers patrolling above. He turned around several times in the air without finding this place. That can only mean that the surrounding purple smoke may have some kind of blocking effect. Ji Shin was not in a hurry. After ensuring that he was not discovered, he regained control of the cube and lifted himself into the air. The next moment, a magical scene appeared again. The entire nether fortress actually lost its outline in the purple mist. In other words, the outline of the stone bricks in the lower realm has been hidden, because Ji Shin can now clearly see the soul soil behind the fortress. Not only in the air, as long as the distance is far away, the nether fortress will automatically become invisible with the help of purple mist. Without specific coordinates and maps, it would be even harder to find the exact location of a fortress. Before I came here, I heard that the Valley of Soul Sand is called the Black Desert, and now it seems that it is indeed well deserved. Ji Shin was secretly shocked. Not only was the soul sand slowing down people's movements, but the blue-purple smoke was also a headache. Fortunately, his luck is always good, and this happened to him. Above the nether fortress, 2 skeleton guards patrol here. They turned their heads to look at the boundless valley of soul sand, and a trace of exhaustion appeared on the faces of the skeletons. We have been patrolling for 4 hours today, let's take a rest. It's not time to rest yet, isn't it good for us to do this? What if a foreigner sneaks in? The skeleton on the right said impatiently. Where are there so many foreigners? This is the Valley of Soul Sand. No one without eyes will come here. Upon hearing this, the skeleton on the left thought for a moment and felt that it made sense. This is the Valley of Soul Sand. As far as the eye can see, it is a desolate place. No living thing can survive here except withered skeletons. This environment is a natural racial barrier. In this way, the 2 skeletons readily accepted the idea of fishing. The 2 skeleton soldiers walked to the outside of the fortress and looked down into the distance. The tired look on their faces quickly receded and was replaced by comfort. I heard that the Piglin King killed many people on the frontline battlefield. Can't a strong demigod go on the battlefield? The opponent's pig spirit doesn't follow martial ethics. Who says it's not the case? Don't worry, our clan also has demigods. This revenge will definitely be avenged. The 2 skeletons chatted without saying a word, completely unaware that a figure had touched behind them. The skeleton on the right stretched and suddenly realized that he had lost his stone sword. Hey, have you seen my stone sword? It was still here just now. The skeleton on the left shook his head with a hint of schadenfreude on his face. You will be punished if you lose the stone sword. You are miserable. The skeleton on the right lowered his head and looked around, but it didn't fall to the ground. There was a trace of anxiety on his face, and he said angrily, "Hurry up and help me look for it. We are a team. If I am punished, you will not gain anything." The skeleton on the left sighed, "Okay. You're always so careless." The 2 skeletons moved together and groped in place for a long time. In the darkness, Ji Shin broke the stone sword with all his strength, and various lights flashed in his eyes. Thinking about how to pry some useful information from the mouths of these two skeletons. After searching for the skeleton that had lost the sword for a long time to no avail, he really panicked. It's strange. I was holding it in my hand, but it was gone in the blink of an eye. Is there a ghost? We are the undead. Where did the ghosts come from? Another skeleton replied. Just when the two skeletons were at a loss, a third voice sounded. It's just a stone sword, no big deal. How about I give you an iron sword? It's much more powerful than a stone sword. Ji Shin took out an iron sword from the secret and handed it to the skeleton who lost the sword. The skeleton who lost the sword was overjoyed and quickly took the iron sword into his arms and said in surprise, "This is an iron sword, brother, where did you get the iron?" Etc. Iron sword. Where does the iron ore come from in the lower realm? The two skeletons instantly felt chills running down their spines. When they looked up, they saw Ji Shin's kind smile. It's very simple. I dug it in the upper world. Do you want it? I have another one here. Ji Shin happily took out another handful from his backpack and handed it to the skeleton on the left. The two skeletons didn't even step on the steps, they were just two ordinary skeletons. At this time, the pressure on Ji Shin alone made them unable to move, let alone reach out to pick up the iron sword. The skeleton who had thrown the sword suddenly woke up. Just when he was about to speak a warning, an iron sword was pressed against his throat, and Kishina's kind voice sounded again. Life is too short, why bother making things difficult for each other? Cooperate obediently. If you dare to scream, your head will be at risk. Ji Shin's eyes were dark now. He had no idea where Wunyan Guan was. He had to find two little tongues to ask. The open mouth of the sword-throwing skeleton never made a sound, and his whole body was trembling. Finally, he nodded in cooperation. That's right. You only have so little military exploits in a month, why are you working so hard? Ji Shin laughed and snatched the iron sword from the opponent's hand, and placed it on the neck of the other skeleton. This mysterious operation made these two skeletons dumbfounded, and it's fair enough. I just want to ask a question, where is Wunyan Guan? As soon as these words came out, the two skeletons looked at each other and immediately understood this person's purpose. After a moment of silence, the skeleton who threw the sword spoke first. We are just two wither soldiers. We don't know Wunyan, let alone where he is being held. Get cold. The cold glow of the iron sword suddenly appeared, and the black power of withering sprayed everywhere. A withered head was cut off directly by Ji Shin. I'm heart to heart with you, why don't you try to play tricks on me? Ji Shin narrowed his eyes. The other party even knew that the Pig Spirit King was participating in the frontal battlefield. As a former tribesman in Withered Nay, how could Wunyan have never even heard of his name? This withered skeleton simply rubbed his intelligence against the ground. Another wither was frightened, his companion's blood, the power of wither, splashed on his face, and his vision was a little blurry. Ji Shin opened his eyes, and the blue hellfire was reflected in his eyes, and the amiable feeling just now was gone. I'm not satisfied with his answer. Tell me, remember, don't play any tricks. I'm not that easy to fool. While speaking, he bent down to pick up the withered skull on the ground and put it into the backpack space. The other skeleton's eyes were full of fear. Oh, they are already dead anyway, so the head cannot be wasted. Seeing the other party's confusion, Ji Shin explained cheerfully. It was okay that Ji Shin didn't explain. Once he explained, the other skeleton became even more frightened. After his companion died, he couldn't even leave a whole body behind. The other party is simply a devil. Don't kill me, I tell you everything. We know Wunyan, and the entire Wither clan knows about his recent resurrection from the dead. He is not in this fortress. If you want to find him, you must go to the central fortress of the Valley of Soul Sand. That is where the king lives. The skeleton spoke a lot in one breath. Ji Shin thought about it carefully and found that there was indeed nothing wrong with it. If he had found the right place from the beginning, he would have doubted the authenticity of the other party's words. Ji Shin put away his iron sword and said in a cold tone, "Do you have a map of the central fortress? You can point in the direction." When the skeleton soldier saw that the other party had put away his iron sword, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The fire in his eyes flickered, as if he was thinking about something. There is no map, but I can give you a direction. It must be. Get cold. Before the wither soldier could finish his words, the blade swiped through him again. His head was also cut off by Ji Shin. I said, don't play tricks with me, you can't play with me. Ji Shin's words were a test. If the other party could really produce a map, he might consider sparing the other party's life. But it would be embarrassing if the other party chose to point the direction first. I do not believe. Ji Shin simply cleaned up the two withered corpses. Hide your figure and wander around this fortress again. Don't kill me, I'll say anything. Central Fortress, I'm just a patroller. How do I know where the central fortress is? Scandium, the sound of an iron sword being placed on the neck. Oh, I remembered it, I suddenly remembered it. It's in that direction. Click, breakage of bones. Ah, scream. This netherworld fortress was very large. Ji Shin turned left and right, and within half an hour, he had 6 or 7 more skulls in his backpack. These skeletons are all a group of low-level soldiers. Their average strength is only at level 5 or 6. If they are not strong, they can only be slapped. But what troubled him was that these withered skeletons were very sleek. When facing a threat, I am scared to death but don't want to tell the truth. He asked 5 skeletons in succession about the location of the central fortress, and actually got 5 completely different directions. They are all old men and no one is honest. It seems that finding the map of the central fortress is the key to truly breaking the situation. Ji Shin sighed. Now he was too lazy to waste his time. He would kill the skeletons on sight and leave no one alive. The Valley of Soul Sand is so big, the various fortresses must be connected. He didn't believe that all these skeletons were equipped with positioning and navigation functions, and he could find the corresponding fortress with his eyes closed. There will be some who don't know the way, and finding a map is a victory. After walking for an unknown amount of time, a burst of noise caught his attention. At the end of the passage, a group of withered skeletons seemed to be discussing something. Ji Shin was not in a hurry to take action, hiding his body and looking sideways. In the distance, a second-level skeleton looked like a torch and shouted in a deep voice. Withering little Dao and withering little Mildew, why didn't you come together? The skeleton soldiers below looked at each other and shook their heads, expressing their ignorance. I just saw them patrolling there. How come they were gone in the blink of an eye? Maybe he fell asleep somewhere. Are you lazy again? The second-level skeleton snorted coldly and said again. They are the only ones in the team who are lazy. From time to time, they will be lazy and take advantage of others. Find an opportunity to tell them that all their battle credits for this month have been deducted. Seeing the leader getting angry, all the skeletons below lowered their heads and did not dare to say a word, for fear of being implicated. After the second-level skeleton cursed, his mood gradually stabilized. I won't wait for the two of them anymore. I have summoned you here today. I have a great thing to tell you. A good thing. The skeletons were all confused and talking at the same time. The second-level skeleton smiled proudly and continued. The fighting on the front line was tense, and a large number of personnel were transferred from the central fortress, resulting in a relative shortage of defense. The superiors have issued a temporary mission and asked us to stay there for a few days. The combat reward will be doubled. On the frontline battlefield, the Piglin King accidentally beat a 4th-level strongman to death. This forced the Wither King to dispatch a 4th-level skeleton again to take charge of the 3 armies. In this way, the central fortress in the Netherworld needs the deployment of troops from the surrounding fortresses for support. After all, it would be nothing if the border fortress was lost. However, if there are any shortcomings in the central fortress, the Wither clan will be embarrassed. The throne of the Withering King lies there quietly. I managed to get this kind of fat job, so you can just follow me and have fun. Ha ha ha. The second-level skeleton held its head high and looked extremely proud. The central fortress is the safest place for the Withering clan, Fat Chai, Big Fat Chai. Who says it's not the case? Not only do we not have to worry about safety issues, but we can also double our military merits. It's so cool. The boss is mighty, long live the boss. The soldier skeleton gave a rainbow fart, which made the second-level skeleton feel happy. Ji Shin, who was hiding in the dark, smiled when he heard the words and shouted, "Long live," in his heart. There is such a good thing. He is worried about not being able to find the central fortress. Okay, I'll let you live a little longer. When we get there, I'll kill you. Ji Shin chuckled, quickly dug a hole, hid his figure, and prepared to follow him secretly. Stop, stop, stop. Don't be too happy too early. There are so many powerful people in the central fortress. You have to be smart so that you don't offend any big shot and you don't even know how you died. The second-level skeleton had obviously been to the central fortress and continued. Don't look at the fact that our fortress is already a high-level one after just 2 steps. When we get to the central fortress, the second-level skeletons are just cabbage and can be encountered everywhere. Remember, with your current level, no matter who you meet, don't be surprised. There is nothing wrong with bowing and calling a priest. Copy that. I promise I won't embarrass you, Captain. After hearing this, the skeleton soldiers all stood up at attention and shouted back. Very good. Let's go. They did not hesitate and walked towards the exit of the fortress after finishing their training. Boss, aren't we going to look for trouble and misfortune? After all, we are on the same team. The second-level skeleton stopped for a moment, hesitating a little, but then quickly frowned and said coldly. No waiting, time is limited. If we don't go, there are other teams in the fortress eager to try. The 2 of them were lazy and missed this opportunity. You can't blame us for being unkind. The skeletons nodded, feeling that what their boss said was right. Fat men like this were not common, and it would be a pity to miss them. Just like this, a group of skeleton soldiers hurried towards the central fortress. Ji Shin waved his hand to break open the lower realm stone bricks in front of him, turned around and used the moment to collect them, sucking all the blocks from a pavilion into his backpack. This thing can only be used as building materials and stepping blocks in the game, so it is not of much use. But in the Valley of Soul Sand, he could hide his whereabouts by relying on the invisibility of the nether stone bricks in the mist. As long as you calculate the distance well, it will be difficult to be discovered by others. Ji Shin's eyes lit up with white light, the power of creation was activated, and the surrounding blocks began to twist and dislocate. In the blink of an eye, a small house made of nether stone bricks appeared in front of him. The small house is not big, the base is only 9*9. But this was enough for Ji Shin. After Ji Shin left, the phantom of the Dread Lord appeared here. He walked to the dilapidated pavilion, the red fire of karma burning in his eyes. The skin of an animal is left behind, and the hair of a goose is plucked. Even if you have to collect a set of nether stone bricks for later use, it fits your personality so well. The purple-robed skeleton laughed, and his expression gradually became serious. He turned to look in the direction Ji Shin left, his eyes full of expectation. Everything is under control. I'm looking forward to meeting you. All of this seems very coincidental, but behind the coincidence is an invisible hand driving all of this. And the person who facilitated all of this was the purple-robed skeleton in front of him. Ji Shin had a patrol team to lead the way, and soon saw a more magnificent nether fortress. The fortress just now was insignificant compared to this fortress, and there was no comparison at all. The number of skeletons on the fortress alone has increased dozens of times. Ji Shin's eyes lit up with white light, and the stone bricks from the lower realm flew out from his hand, quickly raising a stone wall in front of the skeleton team. Now that the place has been reached, their value has been used up. All of them can be made into heads and used as waste. The angle of this stone wall is also very elegant. With the smoke behind it, the Wither team is completely covered, and the patrols above the fortress cannot detect it at all. There's a situation. Everyone is on alert. The patrol team leader was shocked, his eyes scanned the surroundings warily, and he shouted to stop everyone. They were a group of patrolling skeletons. I had never seen such a scene before. They were all huddled together and shivering. Be brave. This is the central fortress. If you are sensible, leave as soon as possible. At this time, the patrol team leader was also panicking. The central fortress was in front of him, but this location was very awkward. The sound could not be transmitted, and because of the stone bricks in the lower realm blocking my position, the skeletons patrolling the fortress could not be seen. This is completely designed to ambush them. What I'm looking for is the central fortress. Ji Shin was too lazy to waste time here. Get down all, let's fight quickly. After receiving the master's order, the 5 obsidian puppets all opened their eyes, and 5 black shadows with red eyes quickly rushed towards the patrol team on the ground. The obsidian puppet was very fast and reached the ground in almost the blink of an eye. Not good. The second-level skeleton was shocked. He didn't see clearly where the danger came from, but his spiritual instinct made him dodge sideways. The next moment, time seemed to slow down countless times, with black skeletons and soul sand hammered into falling objects flying everywhere. The patrol leader saw with his own eyes that his team members were hammered into bone powder by several obsidian, ferocious beasts. What on earth are you? Before the patrol leader finished speaking, the puppet hiding behind him punched his head off. The obsidian puppet possessed by the top undead killer brought its overall combat power to an extremely terrifying level. If there are many of them together, they might be able to kill even level 30 skeletons. The patrol leader felt his body light up. In his last consciousness, a young man picked up his head. A white light flashed, and his consciousness was quickly washed away. Ji-Shin looked at the withered head lying quietly in the backpack. The childishness in his eyes quickly receded, replaced by indifference. I think he was also a young man who feared life at the beginning, but at some point, he began to become numb and even cruel. This entire patrol team has done nothing wrong from beginning to end, they just want a better life. At the same time, they are just the most miserable group of people in the Withering clan. But Ji-Shin killed them all just because of a few heads, leaving no one alive. Become indifferent. Is this a person's growth? Or is it the price of becoming stronger? Ji-Shin felt a little different. He didn't feel that he was wrong in killing the skeleton. If it were his old self, he might kill him too, but he wouldn't take it for granted. Now he seems to be a little less humane, and his every move is transitioning to be more rational and becoming a little divine. What's wrong with me? Ji-Shin turned to look at his puppet and shouted quickly, "Take a good look at me. Have I changed in any way?" The 5 obsidian puppets did not understand the meaning of their master's words, and they all shook their heads to express their ignorance. No, there must be something different, I can feel it. Ji-Shin's eyes widened, he looked at his hands, and almost roared. Somehow, an inexplicable pain suddenly emerged in his heart. The obsidian puppets were all stunned on the spot, not knowing how to respond. Finally, they transformed into a black shadow and burrowed into Ji-Shin's shadow. Etc. Ji-Shin suddenly came back to his senses, his pained expression faded, and his eyes became clear again. Suffering from Chunabu. Wu Nian's life and death are uncertain, why am I going crazy here? He suddenly stood up and couldn't understand why he was in so much pain just now. The sadness came and went faster, revealing something strange, as if there was someone silently resisting in his body. Mental illness. Wow Sao, I must not be infected by the disaster lark, right? No, this is a disease that needs to be cured. I don't know if there are psychiatrists in other worlds. Ji-Shin always felt that this might indicate something. The stone brick hut flew up again and disappeared into the mist. The withered skeletons on the fortress did not notice anything unusual here at all. He is very careful in every move he makes now. The central fortress is much more dangerous than the previous border fortress. If you are not careful, you will be attacked by a group of level 30 skeletons. On the frontline battlefield, the armies of both sides have withdrawn thousands of miles away. In the center is the heaven and earth arena of the Wither King and the Piglin King. The Wither King struck out with his palm, and it hit the Piglin King's golden axe. The next moment, the Wither King began to burst into flames. His body is very huge, but the fire is like some kind of law, directly covering half of his body. Ah, I can't stand it anymore. The Wither King extinguished the flames on his body and looked at his cracked palm, his expression about to collapse. Thorns enchantment, flame enchantment, repel enchantment. It seems to have a hint of undead killer. FK, damn pig, what kind of underworld enchantment is on your breastplate? The Pig Spirit King was very happy, finally waiting for the other party's expression. Yes, this is the feeling. Surprise with a hint of disbelief and then extreme surprise, and finally the brain is on standby. I had the same reaction when I first saw this spectacle, even my expression was exactly the same. Ha ha ha. The Wither King cursed in his heart, but was a little scared, and said in a cold voice, "Dead pig, is this a newly researched technology by your clan? There is no limit to enchantment." The Pig Spirit King smiled and did not speak, with an expression that made you guess. Impossible. The law is the law, and even a demigod cannot break through it. The Wither King seemed to have thought of something and continued, unless someone has mastered the power above the law. The Piglin King's smile disappeared and he murmured, above the law. This angle of the Wither King was very strange, he had never thought about it. Unlimited enchantment is Jishin's ability. This guy is indeed very strong and can be said to be invincible at the same level. But think about it from another angle, the opponent is not that strong, because the opponent's current cultivation level is still the result of being defeated in front of the demigod with one move. And this young man who could be killed instantly by him had the ability to override the law. For a moment, the Piglin King and the Wither King were silent on the spot. The Pig Spirit King's brows furrowed deeper and deeper. From the very beginning, he saw that Jishin had great potential for future development. The opponent's abilities are all kinds of strange, and even the Disaster Clan's space jump can be easily mastered. This can no longer be described as genius. It is even possible to step on the steps 5 times to become a god. Certainly, this is not the point. Although the space jump of the Disaster Clan is weird, its weaknesses are also obvious and it is completely within the rules. Think carefully about Jishin's own abilities. Not only can he ignore the enchantment rules and mix various enchantments onto an item, he can even turn an ordinary block into an extremely offensive one. This is no longer ignoring the law, this is simply rubbing the law on the ground. Puppet. There's something wrong with his puppet too. It doesn't seem to follow the puppet laws of the world. Jishin's black monster appeared in the Piglin King's mind. In Minecraft, there are only 2 types of puppets, iron golems and snow golems. And the 4-faced puppet whose body is covered with obsidian is unheard of. The laws of the world do not allow such creatures to exist. However, Jishin happened to create it. Breaking through the laws of the original world is something that only gods can do, and now Jishin, who is only at the first level, has mastered it. This made the Pig Spirit King think too much. Just like that, the battle between the 2 demigods stopped. The Wither King looked at the meditating Piglin King and was completely confused. You hit me with enchanted equipment. You are so meditating that you can use a hammer. He originally thought that the other party would laugh at him for being ignorant, but the fact was that, just like him, it seemed that the other party had seen this power for the first time. The Pig Spirit King suddenly came back to his senses, his frown suddenly spread, and he thought to himself. Oh, that's right, why should I worry about this? No matter how strong Jishin is, he is still his ally. If his ally is stronger, shouldn't he be happy? Besides, Jishin has a good character and shouldn't be able to stab the piglins in the back. Being the king of a clan is not that easy. While enjoying supreme rights, he also has to bear the fate of an entire race. They will think twice before doing anything that threatens the development of the race. After being king for a long time, you have to analyze even things that are beneficial to you. Hey, old man, you can guess how I mastered this power. I can tell you that the Wither clan is destined to fall in your hands. After the Pig Spirit King finished speaking, the giant axe in his hand transformed into the Dharma of heaven and earth, and hit the Withering King headlong. The Wither King reacted very quickly, with a trace of determination flashing in his eyes. He cut off his arm and turned it into a weapon, waving his hand to resist the attack of the axe. Ordinary weapons can't block the opponent's enchantment attack at all. The demigod's arm is not an object in a sense. Only in this way can he isolate most of the enchantments on the opponent's axe, and come to a level with the Piglin King again. Okay, you are decisive enough. I have no objection to you being the king of the Withering clan. The Pig Spirit King looked at the other party's severed arm that was breathing black gas, and praised it sincerely. The Wither King was so angry that he was so angry, but he had no choice but to curse angrily. Dead pig. Extremely shameless. Central Fortress. In the matchbox. Wu Nian lay on the soul sand without any movement. It wasn't time to serve food yet, so he was the only one in the room. 3 skeletons of over 20 levels were on duty outside, surrounding the entire matchbox. No one was allowed to wander within 300 meters of the matchbox except withered Xiaoke, who came to deliver food. Inside the house, Wu Nian's one eye turned around, a cold light flashing deep in his eyes. He slowly touched the wall beside him with his left hand, and then activated the withering illusion, and his hand went directly through it. However, in the next moment, due to the repulsion of the block, his hand bounced back. Wu Yan has been studying how to overcome this weakness since Ji Xin used a block to break the withering illusion. During this period, Ji Xin also gave him a lot of advice, which benefited him a lot. Now he has the ability to try to avoid blocks. But the only drawback is that it doesn't last long, just a moment. It's okay to go through a wall, but it's impossible to escape from the ground. Wu Yan took a deep breath and tried to regain the hunger he had just consumed. All this was done quietly, and the guards outside didn't notice anything strange at all. Now there is no hope for him to escape, but opportunities are for those who are prepared. Once he has the chance to escape, he will make the choice without hesitation. Crunch. The wooden door was pushed open, and Wither Xiaoke walked in with today's recovery potion. How is your recent recovery? Withering Xiaoke asked with concern. The blood volume has been restored to full, but the body has lost a lot of flesh and blood and cannot return to its peak state. Wu Yan clenched his fists, feeling a little annoyed. Being locked up here for a long time has somewhat affected my spirit. Withering Xiaoke handed the recovery potion in his hand to Wu Yan, with a trace of hesitation and embarrassment on his face, and he hesitated to speak. Wu Yan noticed this very keenly and asked first. If you have anything to say, just say it. Did King Wither give another order? Withering Xiaoke took a deep breath, shook his head and said, No. I have a very important news to tell you. She turned her head and looked out the window again, keeping her voice very low. The king is not in the fortress now. If you want to escape, now may be your best chance. After saying that, Wither Xiaoke was already nervous and breathing a little unsteadily. For her to tell Wu Yan this very important information was tantamount to betraying her race in a different direction. The crime of treason is a serious crime of beheading. But she doesn't want Wu Yan to become the king's food, she wants Wu Yan to live well. As for her mistakes, she will bear them when the time comes. Upon hearing this, Wu Yan's expression instantly became serious. He did not doubt what Withered Xiaoke said. Now he is a piece of meat on the chopping board and could die at any time. There is no need for Withering Xiaoke to make up lies to lie to himself. Really? Wu Yan slowly straightened up and stared at Xiaoke with burning eyes. Xiaoke was a little panicked. Shish. Keep your voice down, there are people outside. It's absolutely true. I saw Wang Fei go out with my own eyes. It seems that the Piglin King on the battlefield ahead killed a strong man at the early stage of the 4th level, in order to issue a challenge to the king. The Pig Spirit King took action. And he also killed a strong man in the early stage of the 4th level in public. Wu Yan is also a smart person, and he immediately sensed something was wrong. The Piglin King is a demigod. Once a creature reaches this level, it will generally not take action easily. Not to mention that when there was also a demigod in Wither, he killed a 4th level strong man in public. This provocation is too obvious. The Piglin King wouldn't care if he lived or died, let alone exacerbating the hatred between the two races because of him. But there is one person who cares, Ji Xin. It was that man who came to save him. Brother Ji, it must be you. It must be you who did all this, and you came to save me. You didn't abandon me, ha ha ha. Wu Yan's one eye couldn't help but shed tears, and his hands trembled unconsciously. This time I was not abandoned, this time I was with the right person. There is only Ji Xin in the world who can give face to the Pig Spirit King. It must be Ji Xin's intention for the Pig Spirit King to take action. Wu Yan didn't make any sound, but his face was already filled with tears. He had experienced a betrayal, and every time he thought about it, it was a scar that he couldn't get around. But he was lucky enough to meet Ji Xin when he was at a low point in his life. This is a wise lord, and God has not failed his loyalty again. If he could escape this disaster and come out of this hellish place, he would follow Ji Xin to the death until everything in his life was burned. Withering Xiaoke stared blankly at Wu Yan, whose face was filled with tears. Although the other person was crying, she could clearly feel that he was crying with joy. She didn't expect that her words would give Wu Yan such great hope. A feeling of sadness surged into her heart, which made her determined to save the other party. Don't be afraid, Wu Yan. If you really want to leave, I will definitely find a way to rescue you. Withered Xiaoke's words reminded Wu Yan, and he turned to look at his alien friend, with mixed feelings in his heart. Xiaokei, why? Withered Xiaokei was a little confused when asked, why? Why are you being so nice to me? I am an ominous person. If you help me like this, you may be in danger. Wu Yan continued. Withering Xiaokei looked at the inhuman Wu Yan in front of him quietly, and wanted to say something, but he swallowed it, and finally just smiled. We are friends. Isn't it normal for friends to help each other? There are so many reasons why. Yeah, you're right, that's how friends should be. Although Wu Yan was smart, he had too much a straight man personality and did not see the truest thoughts in Xiaokei's heart. Withering Xiaokei felt a little disappointed when he saw how stupid the other party was, but he still put on a smile and said, Stay well for now. I will steal a map of the Valley of Soul Sand for you later, and I will help you find a solution for the rest. The most direct obstacle to Wu Yan's escape is the 3 second-level skeletons outside the cell. As long as he finds a way to keep them away, Wu Yan will have hope of escaping. As for whether it can be killed directly, this option was directly rejected by Xiaokei. Since they were of the same race, she could help Wu Yan, but she would never be able to harm her own race. Secondly, her own combat power is only at level 7 or 8, so how can she defeat these skeletons who are over level 20? After that, she was about to leave. Wu Yan thought for a few seconds, then quickly called Xiaokei, keeping his voice as low as possible. Xiaokei, do me a favor. Withered Xiaokei stopped, nodded, and replied, You tell me, I will definitely help you do it. Wu Yan turned around and looked around, flicking off a piece of soul sand. Withering infection activated, and an extremely rich black energy surged up instantly. Under his precise control, the black energy only infected half of the blocks and had no tendency to spread. Take this thing with you and go outside the fortress more often. Remember not to touch the black air on it. This thing is very corrosive and you will be injured. After saying that, Wu Yan handed the uncorroded side to Xiaokei. Withering Xiaokei took the soul sand with some doubts in his eyes. What's the use of this? Useful, very useful, Wu Yan replied decisively. I can't tell you more now. You just need to remember that if someone asks about my location, you must answer truthfully and don't lie. Also, be sure not to kill him. Withering Xiaokei was stunned for a moment by what Wu Yan said, and she replied with a somewhat nervous expression. What happens if I mess up? Wu Yan lowered his eyebrows, then sighed, You might die. Withering Xiaokei was suddenly startled, suppressing the throbbing in his heart, and his eyes became firm again. Don't worry, I will definitely do it. After saying that, she put the infected soul sand into her space backpack and left in a hurry. Assuming that Ji Xin had arrived at the central fortress, his biggest headache would definitely be to find his location. There are so many powerful people here. If you don't determine your position in time, it will only be a matter of time before you are exposed. Ji Xin must be very familiar with the cubes he infected. As long as Withering Xiaokei can meet Ji Xin, this problem can be easily solved. Naturally, the 3 second-level skeletons guarding outside are also not a problem. Wu Yan breathed a sigh of relief, swept away the previous depression, and there was light in his eyes again. After an hour, Ji Xin hid his figure and kept looking for opportunities in the dark. To avoid alerting the enemy, he did not enter hastily. Just a lot of skeleton teams supporting the central fortress were ambushed on the periphery. Of course, these teams are not from the central fortress, so there is very little useful information. However, there were very few skeletons coming out of the fortress. After waiting for so long, no team was seen. You can't come here in vain. Even if there is danger, you have to go in and try it. Ji Xin narrowed his eyes and planned to take a risk and sneak into the fortress to search. Just when he was about to take action, Wither Xiaokei walked out of the fortress holding the infected block. Hey, the situation is in turmoil now. Even the Valley of Soul Sand is not safe. You'd better not run around. The skeleton guarding the gate shouted sharply. Wither Xiaokei was startled, quickly put away the infected block, and said with a smile. I have been ordered to patrol the surrounding area and will return immediately. Patrol. A trace of suspicion flashed in the eyes of the skeleton guarding the door. Isn't the minimum number of people on patrol 2 skeletons? Why did you come here alone? 2 skeletons. Withering Xiaokei was speechless, and his expression became tense at a speed visible to the naked eye. Just now she was only thinking about hiding the cube, and she forgot all about the patrol rules. He actually made up such a lame excuse. What to do, what to do? Withering Xiaoke himself was doing bad things, his mind went blank and he couldn't think of anything. The karma fire in the eyes of the gatekeeper skeleton flickered slightly, as if he understood something. He waved his hands and said, "Okay, I get it now. Your partner must be lazy again, right? Hey, it's not a big deal, don't be so nervous, I'm just asking, please go and come back quickly." Lazy fishing is not exclusive to border fortresses, there are many such situations in central fortresses as well. The gatekeeper skeleton is also not surprised. After all, they are all colleagues, so why make things difficult for each other? Withering Xiaoke was overjoyed and nodded, yes, yes. Thank you, the gatekeeper, for being so accommodating. After saying that, she walked quickly outside the fortress, fearing that the other party would discover her secret. The karma in the gatekeeper's eyes turned into the shape of a love, and he said, "Nan Nan. Wow, what a cute girl. I like her shy character." Withered Xiaoke walked on the soft soul sand, his steps slow. The crackling and burning soul fire all around added a touch of terror to the weird atmosphere. Now that the situation is in turmoil, they can sneak into the Crimson Forest to assassinate the piglins, and the piglins can in turn ambush them. Even if this is the center of the Valley of Soul Sand, it is not safe. If you are not careful, you may die somewhere. There will really be someone here to help. Could it be that Wu Nian made a mistake? Withering Xiaoke was beating his heart, looking at the central fortress getting farther and farther behind him, and a sense of uneasiness surged into his heart. Click. Withered Xiaoke felt as if he had stepped on something. Looking down, a headless skeleton appeared at the soles of her feet. "Ah, die," she screamed, tripping to the ground with a thud. When I looked at it again, the skeleton had disappeared and turned into fallen objects quietly suspended their coal one and bone one. Dead in 5 minutes, Withered Xiaoke hurriedly looked at the surrounding fog, trying to find the whereabouts of the enemy. After the creature dies, if the corpse is not forcibly destroyed, the corpse will usually exist for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, the corpse disappears and the equipment is dropped. The skeleton disappeared in front of her eyes, which meant that it had been dead for exactly 5 minutes. There must be someone hiding in the surroundings. No, help, I don't want to die yet. She quickly got up, and the biological survival instinct completely took over his thoughts. He reached out to pick up the soul sand that fell on the ground and planned to leave. But the next moment, a magical scene happened. The soul sand that was supposed to be in the form of a dropped object suddenly seemed to have come to life, enlarged and turned into a normal block again. This. Withered Xiaoke had never seen such a scene before, and he was stunned on the spot for a moment. "Don't move. Where did you get this sand?" An extremely cold voice sounded behind her. Xiaoke was shocked and looked sideways. An iron sword was already placed on his neck. The withering power remaining on it has proven that the other party has killed many skeletons. "Don't kill me. I don't want to die yet. I still have a lot of things to do." Xiaoke's mind went blank, his whole body was trembling, and he had completely forgotten all Wu Nian's warnings. At this moment, the iron sword placed on her neck glowed with cold light, and the look of the opponent's pupils was reflected on it, a hollow white light. Ji Xin seemed a little impatient. Every skeleton seemed to be carved out of the same mold, and he said this sentence over and over again. He raised his hand and sucked the infected soul sand into his hand. The power of enchantment surged up, isolating the corrosive power above to prevent harm to himself. Yes, this is the block created by the wither infection. The other party must have seen Wu Nian before. Ha ha ha, you can't find anything even if you wear iron shoes, but it takes no effort at all. Ji Xin narrowed his eyes, and the white light in his eyes was squeezed even brighter. "Tell me, where is the person who made this block now?" "It's you." So that's what Wu Nian said. Withering Xiaoke's heart skipped a beat, and his fear quickly receded. Ignoring the iron sword hanging on her neck, she boldly turned her head to look at Ji Xin. Behind him is also a young player, who is as handsome as Wu Nian. There is some stubble growing between the chin, as if it has not been groomed for a long time. Coupled with the oppressive white light in his eyes, Withering Xiaoke's first reaction was to surrender. She seemed to be worshipping a king now, the supreme king. Even if the opponent's current level is far less than that of a demigod, there is always an urge to kneel down and worship. Withered Shao Ke shook off the messy thoughts in his mind and spoke again. You know Wu Nian. It was Wu Nian who asked me to come to you. Ji Shin was not in a hurry to answer. There were many mistakes, and he was still unable to determine the authenticity of the other party's words. The iron sword in his hand leaned against the opponent's neck again. His voice was still cold, ready to verify the authenticity of the other party's words. Who is Wu Nian? Listen to my question. Where is the person who made this cube now? Wither Shao Ke was speechless. He looked at Ji Shin again and confirmed that the opponent was a player. Wu Nian made this cube himself in front of me. He also asked me to come outside to find you. Could it be that I found the wrong one? She was a little confused and couldn't tell the difference between true and false. She felt that she had found the right person, but she was not completely right. Ji Shin raised a smile and put away the iron sword. Very good. It seems that you are really the boy who came to guide me. Wait a minute, are you right? I feel like my brain is a bit lacking. Withered Shao Ke only felt that the person in front of him was a bit baffling. Ji Shin nodded and confirmed the other person's idea. He is exactly the person you were looking for. But he didn't have time to play tricks on the other party. The sentence just now seems to have no effect, but there are many things to consider under closer inspection. In a high-pressure environment, people will always enter a state of high tension, and the same is true for intelligent skeletons. In this state, everything, including lies, becomes more real. Ji Shin made it clear from the beginning that he did not know Wu Nian, building suspense and raising the first question. Then, he asked where the person who made the cube was now, and then set up a second question. If the other party was not sent by Wu Nian, she would subconsciously notice the latter problem and would probably give a location to save her life. As for the authenticity of the location, it's hard to say. However, if the other party is really sent by Wu Nian, then the other party will only pay more attention to the former issue. Did you find the right person? Why did everything go right, but the result was still wrong? The answer was naturally Shao Ke's current reaction. Of course, this is just a small language test by Ji Shin on Withered Shao Ke. It can only be used as a reference and is not 100% accurate. Even if the other party gets the answer wrong, there is a high probability that he will not kill the other party. He finally found the clue. Even if it was dangerous, he had to try it. Ji Shin changed his seriousness and said with a smile, I didn't expect that Wu Nian also has his own network in the Withering clan. What's your name? My name is Withered Shao Ke. In fact, Wu Nian and I are just friends. Shao Ke squirmed, looking a little shy. Ji Shin looked confused. What was wrong with his words? Why did the other party react like this? Since you can come out to see me, it means that you really want to help Wu Nian. Tell me the specific situation. Withering Shao Ke nodded and briefly explained Wu Nian's current situation. Including the current status of the opponent and the surrounding guard strength, Ji Shin was informed of everything. Ji Shin's eyes flashed with light, and he stared straight at the skeleton in front of him, not knowing what he was thinking. After Wither Shao Ke finished speaking, Ji Shin rubbed his chin and asked a question in his mind. As a member of the Withering clan, why are you helping Wu Nian so much? Or, if Wu Nian escapes, aren't you afraid of King Withering's punishment? Wither Shao Ke tilted his head. Why is this question again? Wu Nian has just finished asking her. Yeah, we are friends, I think. Wither Shao Ke repeated the original words before, even the tone was exactly the same. As Ji Shin listened, a smile unconsciously appeared on his lips. As an outsider, he could clearly feel that Fade Shao Ke had a different kind of emotion towards Wu Nian. It's unclear. Only then did he realize that not only were pig spirits divided into male and female, but the same seemed to be true for Wither. Although the skeletons were not very different, Ji Shin could clearly feel that the other person was a female skeleton. You should know that if Wu Nian is really rescued, what will your actions mean? Ji Shin put away his smile and looked serious. Wither Shao Ke nodded. Treason. A capital crime. It's good to know, but are you afraid of death? Ji Shin continued to ask. As soon as these words came out, Wither Shao Ke fell silent, and finally she timidly replied. I are afraid of death, but I am willing to use my life. Before Withered Shao Ke finished speaking, he he was interrupted by Ji Shin. That's enough. With your words, I know it in my heart. As he spoke, Ji Shin raised his hand, and two black shadows instantly attached themselves to withered Xiaokei's shadow. You have worked hard during this period, leave the rest to me. Withering Xiaokei only felt that there was something extra in his body, but when he felt it carefully, he couldn't find anything. Ji Shin saw the other party's concerns and said with a smile. Don't worry, this won't cause you any harm. You just need to meet Wu Nian again, and I can easily rescue him. Easy. Should we try some more planning? Wither Xiaokei felt that the other party was a little too crazy. This was the central fortress of the Wither clan. Although the opponent was very strong, but judging from his aura, which was at the mid-level of the first level, there was no way he could easily rescue Wu Nian from being surrounded. No, thank you again for your efforts for Wu Nian. I'll say thank you on his behalf. Ji Shin didn't mean to explain too much. The lower realm stone bricks in his hands flew out, wrapped him up and disappeared into the mist, disappearing without a trace. Withering Xiaokei shook his head, looked at the direction Ji Shin left, and murmured, "What a strange character." After saying that, she turned around and walked towards the central fortress, but her back was a little bleak and every step was very heavy. In the darkness, Ji Shin looked at withered Xiaokei, with the ultimate rationality in his eyes. His plan to rescue Wu Nian is simple, that is, to let the obsidian puppet and the heart pan puppet possess the shadow of withered Xiaokei. She brought the two puppets into the fortress and handed them over to Wu Nian. At that time, he can use the Zinpan puppet's space jumping ability to enter the fortress. Then use space jump again to return to the Crimson Forest, or the upper realm base. There is no danger in this process and it is very easy. But, everything has a price. Once this plan succeeds, it means that Xiaokei will no longer have the possibility to gain a foothold in the Withering clan. The person who died never thought about it, and it is very likely that he transformed into her. After all, her crime was to have liaison with a foreign enemy. Haha, why am I a little envious of that boy Wu Nian? Ji Shin shook his head and smiled bitterly, constantly thinking about other more appropriate ways to save this withered little K. Can I leave with Wither Xiaokei? Then no one will have to die. On the other side, the gatekeeper saw withered little K coming back, and quickly asked with concern. Sister, are you not in any danger? Withering Xiaokei woke up with a start, looked up at the fortress where he used to live, tears overflowed unconsciously in his eyes, and he felt extremely reluctant to part with him. She didn't answer the gatekeeper's skeleton's words, lowered her head and ran straight to the matchbox cell. The gatekeeper skeleton felt that he was being ignored and was a little angry. HMPH, I'm so blind that I actually like this kind of character and don't like him anymore. Outside the matchbox, the second-level skeleton stopped the withered Xiaokei who was returning, and said in a cold voice. Didn't you give me potion once? I have one more thing I forgot to tell Wu Nian. Withered Xiaokei replied timidly. Forgot to tell me, haha. The leader's eyes were filled with contempt as he continued. I advise you to be more honest. If the guy inside is lost, you and I will both die. Withering Xiaokei was worried. Ji Shin was still waiting outside, she had to go in. Brothers, I'm really in a hurry. Please help me and be accommodating. Are you accommodating? How do you want to be accommodating? Another skeleton on the right came over with a smile and reached out to touch Xiaokei's cheek. Withered Xiaokei's delicate character successfully aroused his interest. The other two skeletons laughed when they saw this. Third brother, you actually like skeletons with this kind of personality, they have a unique taste. The skeleton named Lao San chuckled, and the movements of his hands became even greater. The aesthetics of skeletons does not distinguish between beauty and ugliness, only the character. Withered Xiaokei stepped back and avoided the hands that were reaching out to her. Everyone, please be accommodating. Really? Snapped. There was a crisp sound, and Xiaokei felt a huge force on his face, and then he flew backwards. HMPH, you still dare to hide. You are a waste who has not even completed one step. It is your blessing that I see you. The skeleton named Lao San said fiercely. Inside the matchbox, Wu Nian heard Xiaokei's screams and quickly put his head into check. But because the window of the cell was too small, I could only see Xiaokei lying on the ground crying. What are you doing? The third skeleton heard the shouting in the firebox, but didn't pay much attention to it and continued to walk towards Xiaokei, who fell on the ground. It's fine that the king doesn't know about the relationship between you two. We've found everything out in the past 2 days. No wonder you guys are always whispering inside. After doing this for a long time, it turns out that we are old friends. What a coincidence, I have just the right taste. As he said that, he rushed towards Xiaokei, who fell on the ground. When the eldest and second eldest saw this scene, they all smacked their lips and complained while watching. Lao San's habit is getting weirder and weirder, tisk tisk. Brother, can we change positions? Your angle is so good. Don't change. Withering Xiaokei wanted to push the skeleton away, but because of the opponent's second level strength, he was completely crushed in terms of strength alone, without any chance of resistance. Ah, please, don't. The more Xiaokei struggled, the more excited skeleton Lao San became. He slowly released his withering origin and began to invade Xiaokei's origin. The origin of withering skeletons is their flesh and blood, and reproduction naturally relies on the combination of origins to produce the next generation. We have long been unhappy with you. As a member of the Withering clan, you are tired of being with a foreigner all day long. How shameless do you want to be? I'll do it for you today. Let's see how you get along with that pretty boy in the future. In the matchbox, when Wu Nian saw Fade Xiaokei being humiliated, his eyes turned red. Withering illusion, wall-penetrating version, is activated. The body began to flicker rhythmically. Get away, let me out. The next moment, he exerted force on his legs and increased his speed to the extreme. The wall in front of him was like paper, and he passed through it easily. Wu Nian, who came out, worked hard, and before the other 2 skeletons could react, he kicked towards the origin of the third skeleton. Snapped. Just hearing a scream, the third skeleton flew backwards. Wu Nian's whole body was boiling with withering power, and unexpectedly, this kick actually hit him, critically. Click. Ah, my withering origin hurts. It hurts. It hurts. The intense pain caused the skeleton to roll on the spot, and he was unable to get up for a while. No one knew about the ability of this move to penetrate walls, including Wither Xiaokei. Wu Nian originally wanted to use it as his own escape card. But now that the matter is urgent, he can no longer hide it. Worst, the third child flew out. Is this little bitch so fierce? No, that kick was from Wu Nian. How did he get out? The skeleton boss and the second child, who were looking at each other in rapt attention, all stayed where they were. If they had eyes, they might have popped out at this time. He turned around and looked at the empty cell, and then at Wu Nian, whose face was filled with murderous intent. Countless alpacas passed through my mind. They had been guarding for so many days, but they didn't know that the other party had this ability. This is no small matter. It was so unexpected that people ran away without knowing when. Second brother, go and see the third child. I'll deal with Wu Nian. The skeleton boss took out the stone sword and stared at Wu Nian all the time. Now their lives are tightly tied to Wu Nian. If the other party really runs away, they will all be dead. Ah, it hurts me so much. It's cracked. My withering origin is cracked. The third skeleton groaned in pain, looking at his split origin, his heart filled with pain. The withered origin is equivalent to their flesh and blood, and the feeling of being kicked to pieces is really uncomfortable. The second skeleton checked the third brother's injuries and said solemnly. Fortunately, Wu Nian's realm is not high, otherwise that kick could directly destroy you. You can recover in the future and have no impact on your own strength, but... Having said this, the second child paused for a moment, and a subtle smile flashed across his face. Seeing the expression on his friend's face, the third child suddenly panicked. But what? You can tell me something. Well, it's very likely that you won't be able to get hard in the future. You'd better not think about shameful things. The second child pretended to be calm and tried not to laugh out loud. No, this is impossible. The third skeleton focused his attention on his own origin, trying to pull it out of his body again. However, just as the origin was about to show its face, it shrank back again. It was obvious that there was some kind of shadow. The reproduction of the Wither clan is the combination of origins, giving birth to a new origin, which is the new Wither skeleton. This whole process requires the male skeleton to invade the female skeleton's body. The inability to extract the source indicates from the side that the third child's ability to reproduce has been abolished. No, don't shrink back, come out quickly. The third child was almost crying. The other side, Wu Nian helped withered Xiao Ke up and said in a gentle voice, Xiao Ke, are you okay? I'm fine, but you? Withering Xiao Ke was a little panicked. The skeleton Lao San was kicked like that by Wu Nian. The other party would definitely not let it go. Wu Nian didn't care, and said with a smile, it's okay, they don't dare to kill me, at most. At most, I'll cut off your limbs and make you into a human stick. Boss Withered continued Wu Nian's words. They really didn't dare to take Wu Nian's life. But that doesn't mean they can't give up. The Wither King made it very clear that if the opponent escapes, they can chop off their limbs and leave only one alive. Wu Nian turned to look at the skeleton boss and sneered. You guys locked me up in this hellish place, what's the difference between this and having my limbs chopped off? Besides, if I fall into the hands of your withering clan, I will die sooner or later. If I can defeat one of them before I die, I will make a profit. As soon as these words came out, the old man became anxious and said with a cry, Brother, kill him to avenge me. The skeleton boss felt a little helpless when he saw the third child like this. With a knife on his head, he paid the price. Wu Nian, we originally had no hatred, but you destroyed the origin of Lao San, so I have to take care of it. I'll take one of your legs, that's not too much. Wu Nian didn't have any fear at all, and didn't even look at the other person. There was no way he could defeat them. There were 3 second-level enemies on the opposite side, and he was only a half-broken first-level enemy. There was no doubt about the outcome. However, if he was afraid of death, he wouldn't have come out just now, so why should he be afraid of removing one of his legs? Without anyone noticing, 2 pairs of red eyes suddenly lit up in the shadow of withered Xiao Ke. They felt Wu Nian's aura. Immediately afterwards, the black shadow pulled away and merged with Wu Nian's shadow. Turbulent, overbearing, fearless. At this moment, everything came to Wu Nian's mind. This was the sense of security that the obsidian puppet brought him. Brother Ji, you. Daughter really here. Wu Nian laughed loudly, a fierce light suddenly appeared in his eyes, and he suddenly turned his head to look at the 3 skeletons in front of him. If you get out now, you might still survive, otherwise you will suffer when that person comes. The eldest brother and the second child looked at each other, not understanding what the other party was doing. The second skeleton is not as polite as the elder skeleton, he is full of disdain. It's just you, a half-disabled one-time climber. You've figured out how a hero saves a beauty. You have to look at the situation clearly. Your opponents now are 2.5 second level strong men. What are you going to do to fight us? The second child of the skeleton looked at the third child who had been kicked in the balls, and couldn't help but feel distressed. Tisk tisk, let's count it as half. Lao San endured the pain from his source and roared with a splitting look. No matter who comes today, it won't work. I will also destroy your withered origin. As soon as he finished speaking, skeleton Lao San took the lead, and the breath of a second-level strong man hit his face. Stop, third brother, he can't die yet. The boss is obviously more sensible. If Wu Nian dies, they won't survive. The third skeleton replied viciously, don't worry, brother, I'm not that stupid yet. However, removing only one of the opponent's legs is too light. I also want the opponent to be like me. Seeing that he could no longer stop it, the skeleton boss put his outstretched hand back. If Lao San doesn't let out this sigh of relief, this problem will be impossible to overcome. Facing the attack from the second-level powerhouse, Wu Nian didn't panic at all, and ducked into withered Xiao Ke to block all the pressure, and said with Nanan in his heart. Brother puppet, I'm sorry. The next moment, a burst of purple light rose into the sky, and a huge obsidian palm stretched out from nowhere. He caught the flying skeleton Lao San in one fell swoop, and the whole process was as easy as pinching a chicken. Ji Xin had already told the puppet before that he must ensure Wu Nian's safety after entering. This transfers control to Wu Nian in disguise. At this time, Wu Nian was no longer a half-disabled first-level player. With the obsidian puppet possessing all attribute enchantments, it is not difficult for one person to defeat 3 skeletons of the other party. In the blink of an eye, the offensive and defensive momentum is different. What is this? Boss, help me. The third child's cry for help sounded, and he felt as if all the bones in his body were about to crack. No matter how much you resist, you can't break free. Save the third child. The skeleton boss's reaction was not unpleasant, although he didn't know what this black, ferocious beast was. But biological instinct told him that this big man was dangerous. If you are not careful, you will die. The skeleton old man drew the stone sword from his hand and rushed forward with the boss, trying to take down this black puppet in one fell swoop. Ha ha ha, Wu Nian, long time no see, did you miss me? The Zinpan puppet tore a rift in space next to Wu Nian, and hearty laughter echoed around him. Ji Shin walked slowly out of the circle of light. Immediately afterwards, several obsidian pillars shot out from his body like black dragons glowing with cold light. They all rushed towards the skeleton boss and the skeleton boss. No, get out of the way. The skeleton boss reacted quickly, but Ji Shin controlled obsidian faster. Ah! With two screams, they were both nailed to death in the air. You're just a bastard, but you still dare to hurt my people. Ji Shin spat, and instantly killed two second-level skeletons with one move. The obsidian he is using now is all enchanted with all attributes, and already has good attack power. Wu Nian looked at the two skeletons nailed in the air with mixed feelings in his heart. Brother Ji, the difference between us is really only a little. Huh, what are you talking about? You are showing distrust in your immediate superior. What your little brother did is really unqualified. Ji Shin turned around and made a joke, and then said, you are not dead yet, I have to say, your luck is also. Before he finished speaking, Wu Nian's appearance of no flesh made him tremble in shock. At this time, the skin all over Wu Nian's body was already ulcerated. If he looked carefully, he could still see his beating heart through his chest. Looking up, Wu Nian had no lips, 2 rows of white teeth were exposed, and even only one eyeball was left. Ji Shin's smile slowly faded again, and his voice was cold. Is this done by the Wither King? Yeah, Wu Nian nodded without denying it. Ji Shin suppressed the anger in his heart and continued, will the flesh and skin grow back on its own after the blood volume is full? Wu Nian smiled bitterly, I have full health now. This skin and flesh has been worn away bit by bit and will never grow back. Ji Shin clenched his teeth and his fists clenched loudly. He wanted to ask if it hurt, but in the end he didn't. The skin and flesh all over the body have been rubbed away, it's strange that it doesn't hurt. Wu Nian saw what Ji Shin wanted to ask, smiled and shook his head. It was a bit painful at first, but it doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't hurt anymore. How could it not hurt? The anger in Ji Shin's heart was not suppressed after all. What a withering king, your methods are cruel enough, you dare to abuse my people like this. It's just too much. Sooner or later, I will kill your entire clan. Ji Shin's words were almost a growl, and the surrounding blocks were being pulled, and they were all trembling. As soon as these words came out, Withering Xiaoke was shocked and quickly said good things. King, he didn't mean it. Could you please stop killing our entire clan? Forehead. Ji Shin was embarrassed on the spot, and the newly rising atmosphere suddenly fell silent, forgetting that there was still a Wither 25 boy here. Yeah, for your sake, just kill half of it. Huh, half. Wither Xiaoke muttered aggrievedly. Killing half of them is a bit much. Many people in Wither are innocent. Ah, I'm so annoyed. Wu Nian, take your own revenge. It's too contradictory and I can't solve it. Ji Shin was helpless and waved his hands repeatedly. He really didn't expect that the event of genocide would be like bargaining at a wet market. Wu Nian nodded and said to Xiaoke, I promise you, when I have enough strength, I will only kill the Wither King. I won't move the others. Gee, you shouldn't have saved this guy, he really knows how to coax girls. Ji Shin was too lazy to look at the two of them. He rebuilt Calamity Xingquan's body and opened a space rift. The other end of the crack is the upper realm base. Let's go back first. Chu Linger may have a way to treat your flesh injuries. Ji Shin said to Wu Nian. Yeah, I hope so. Wu Nian actually didn't have much hope. After all, even the healing potion wouldn't work for this kind of injury. Ji Shin turned to look at Wither Xiaoke again and said. You can't stay with the Wither clan anymore. You will die if you stay here. Otherwise, you can work under me. Food, accommodation and weekends are included. Ji Shin sincerely issued a team invitation to Fade Xiaoke. To be honest, the other party was willing to sacrifice his own life in order to allow Wu Nian to escape safely. He still admires this kind of skeleton, and it is perfect for him to be his subordinate. Low strength. No, 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 he never checked the strength when he accepted a younger brother, only his character. Double cultivation. How to cultivate? Wither Xiao Ke asked cutely. Ji Shin's face was full of black lines, and he quickly explained, It's not the dual cultivator, you understand, don't get it wrong. Wu Nian on the side saw that Ji Shin wanted to take Xiao Ke in, so he took the other person's hand on the spot and said excitedly. Yes, Xiao Ke, come with us. Brother Ji is very good. If it weren't for his shelter, I might have died long ago. Withering Xiao Ke looked at Wu Nian's happy look, and she also smiled sincerely. Slowly withdrawing Wu Nian's hand, his eyes full of reluctance. Can you hug me? Hug you? Wu Nian's heart was full of doubts, and she didn't understand what Xiao Ke was thinking. Don't talk about this now, let's get out of here first, come with us. Wu Nian was a little anxious, so he picked up withered Xiao Ke again and walked towards the crack in space. This is the central fortress. If you wait a little longer, the withered reinforcements will arrive. By then, you won't be able to leave even if you want to. Ji Shin saw withered Xiao Ke's thoughts and said in a cold voice. Wu Nian, don't pull her, just give her a hug. We have different ideas. You can't force some things. Brother Ji, now is not the time to talk about this. Leaving here together is the first priority. If you wait, I will definitely be able to persuade you. Wu Nian seemed to have realized Xiao Ke at this time and wanted to leave, but as Ji Shin said, the only way for the other party to stay was to die. Wu Nian, let go. I am a wither. I love my race. Letting you go is already a major betrayal of my race. I can't make another mistake again and again. It's time to atone. Withering Xiao Ke let go of Wu Nian's hand. The two sides had different positions. The Withering clan gave birth to her and raised her. Now that she has made a mistake and walked away, she can't even forgive herself. From the perspective of the Withering clan, Xiao Ke is a sinner, and of course she thinks so too. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect you, a traitor, to have a conscience, ha ha. Stop being so pretentious, don't you just want to be with that pretty boy? Go, what a great opportunity, ha ha ha. An extremely discordant sound sounded in the hands of the obsidian puppet, which was the third skeleton who had not yet died. A vein stretched out on Ji Shin's forehead and he winked at the puppet. Don't ask me for permission on this kind of thing from now on, just crush him to death. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.